Good evening and welcome to the May 4th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll begin by reading the public notice. Notice is hereby given that due to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and recent executive orders issued by the governor, the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals, the zoning board hearing scheduled for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. will be held electronically via Zoom webinar instead of an in-person public hearing and will be streamed live over the internet. Dated April 27th, 2021, John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is number 258-21, Albert George. Permission to leave roofed over patio, leaving floor area of 25.4% instead of the permitted 25%. Residence B District, southwest corner of Stein Drive, number 1810, and Marvin Road, Bayshore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Good evening, Roxanne. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Messina, for that wonderful introduction.
My privilege.
Yes. So you're here seeking permission to leave roofed over patio, increase the floor area ratio to a little bit higher than we see in our code. As you know, we go up to 30%, so 25.4 is de minimis to this board, I believe. Does anyone wish to be heard this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Our next application, Mr. Chairman, is number 259-21. Juan Ponce and Nicholas Amador, permission to leave driveway on side property line, not having a required setback of 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Wurz Street, number 273, 615.79 feet south of Wiley Street, Brentwood, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
She's here. I just accidentally moved her to attend. Here she comes
You
back.
bumped her out already?
I did. Well, Will had learned how to do that job for me. So as soon as he gets back, he'll start doing it.
Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes.
Roxanne, how are you?
Hi. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. Here for the driveway being on the side property line instead of the required 4 feet. And it is at the 4 feet at the opening of the driveway and then progressively encroaches onto the property line.
Yep, we see that. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicolia, I will take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Next application is number 260-21, Brian J. and Marie F. Acetella. Permission to erect a one-story addition 10 feet by 25 feet, leaving a second front yard of 11.9 feet instead of the required 15 feet, to leave a deck having second front yard of 14 feet instead of the required 20 feet, and to leave a detached garage having a second front yard of 12.9 feet instead of the required 20 feet, and the rear yard of 1.7 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Ridgeway Boulevard, number 6 and Hiawatha Drive, southwest corner of Ovid Place and Ridgeway Boulevard, Bayshore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good
Charles
evening,
J.
Mr. Rudy.
Good evening, Charles J. Broody, architect, 30 Bethesda Lane, Salem, New York.
How's everything?
Representing the property owner. As just stated in the call, we seek permission to construct a one-story addition, leaving a second front yard of 11.9 feet instead of the required 15 feet. Also to leave a deck having a second yard setback of 14 feet instead of the required 20 feet. And to leave a detached garage having second front yard of 12.9 feet instead of 20, and a rear yard of 1.7 feet instead of the required 4 feet to this very strange but funky kind of piece of property.
Right, the proposed one-story addition in the second front yard, it's just
Yeah.
11 point, I can't read the handwriting, but I think it's 11.1, it says in the call. 11.9, I'm sorry.
11, yes, 11.9.
What do you mean?
And then
You can't read Charlie's handwriting?
And listen, it's very neat looking. I just get a little- I read it.
Mary's used to it by now. Yeah,
It's only in the corner of the dwelling, and the property does come in on a pretty hard angle right there on that one side.
correct. By time you get to the middle of that addition, we are conforming to the 15-foot setback. And then as you get to the end, we're over the 17.4.
Gotcha.
If-
And
If I could just ask a question, what does the neighborhood look like? Tell us about the nature and character of the neighborhood regarding those encroachments.
I would say this is probably the strangest piece of property in the
I
neighborhood.
didn't ask you what this property was like. I'm asking you about encroachments.
Would have to go to Deirdre for that.
Deidre, that's
So-
your cue.
There's not any precedent, but this house does have technically 3 front yards. So
Right.
no matter where you put something, it's pretty much going to be in a front yard. I think that kind of hurts it in a way. So there's no precedent for it, but I don't really have any objections to what they're proposing. The detached garage, I think, has been there at least since 2001. If these were side yards, I don't think that there'd be, I don't know if they'd be here. They might be here for like a 12.9 instead of 15.
So the
It's just-
next applicant that comes and says, I want a relaxation, we can say, no, this was unique circumstances. Will that hold up?
So,
I think it will. I had three front, technically 3 front yards on it. It's,
I don't think I've ever seen that before, actually.
all right.
I know I haven't. My
I
first-
know my brother lives on one of these in another town, and I know the town basic there where it gives him whatever he needs because of the unique circumstances. So
Could we have Will write something about that? So we're not stuck with a precedent that everybody's gonna say, oh, look, you gave it, and they'll never get into the 3 front yard aspect of it. We'll never know. And someone will say, oh, yeah, look, we did grant it. Can we just get that specified?
Sure. I agree with you on that. I think
100%.
it should. I'm sure, I think Willie's can hear us, right, Mr. Garbarino? I'm assuming he can.
I think he ran home. He had to get his laptop.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If not, Ms. Becerra will inform him.
Great.
That's
I
appropriate.
apologize about that. I thought he was on. Yeah, so there's no objections, Deirdre, from planning for any of the questions in the application?
no objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Sorry, excuse me. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
motion to grant the application in light of the fact that it has 3 front yards. And I would specifically request that council draft the decision to include that frequently and in bold typeface.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, Mr. Bird.
Thank you very much.
and next application is number 261-21, Edward R. and Valerie Canopa. Permission to erect a 2nd-story addition, 21.3 feet by 26.4 feet, and a portico, leaving a floor area ratio of 29.91% instead of permitted 25%. To leave 2 sheds, shed number 1 having a 2nd front yard of 2.3 feet instead of the required 20 feet, and shed number 2 having a 2nd front yard of 3.7 feet instead of the required 20 feet, and not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, and to leave driveway on side property line, not having a required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, northeast side of Wilhelm Lane, number 109, and LaGrange Place, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, again, Charles J. Broody, architect, representing the property owner.
How are you, Mr. Rudy?
Good, thank you again, and yourself.
one.
As stated in the call, seeking permission, 2nd-story addition with the front portico, requesting an FAR of 29.91% instead of the permitted 25%, and also to maintain existing sheds in their current non-conforming locations. It's a little bit of extenuating circumstances here. The property owners have basically took on extended family at the house, and the shed on that side of the property gives them access to the gate, to LaGrange place with easier access than having to try to put these sheds in the rear and rear north corner, which is so far away from everything.
I'm going to ask Deirdre if she has any precedent for these sheds. Mr. Birdie, as you know, it's difficult for us to see sheds in second front yards. I don't think there's
Yes,
much
I know.
precedent in the area, but West Islip sometimes has a precedent-filled area. So let's see. Deirdre, any precedent for these sheds?
There is one shed with a front yard of 13 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. I just want to also note that the shed in the rear back corner, the one at the top of the page here, I think has possibly been there since 1984, but I believe the larger shed is newer.
So what's the significance of 1984? Was there a different setback requirement then? Or it's just been there for a while and then it's a nature and character thing because it's been there so long?
Mostly the nature and character has just been there for a very long time, and it's 64 square feet, so it's small. The second shed isn't much bigger. It's 100 square feet, but it was, as far as when I was looking back at aerials, I didn't see it on the 2016 or 2017 aerial. So I think it's definitely newer, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
know when the shed was-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you knew or if your client expressed when that second shed, the shed closest to the front line of the dwelling, was built.
Yeah, I would think within the last 2 to 3 years, due to the dynamics of what happened at the house. And they're in their 80s, this couple, and they took on the responsibility of watching their grandchildren. So the shed seemed to be in that location, the most logical location for access to bicycles and access out of the property. Again, there's a gate on that side of the property line, as opposed to putting it in the back corner and having to transverse all the way through the property to get out.
I just don't know how we grant that shed, Mr. Brody, and knowing that we haven't granted it in the past, something like this in the past, and when you know how it all goes.
Yes,
When
I
someone else comes up and says, "I have the shed," what do we say? You know, and it's the story that you give is tugs on the heartstrings, but we have to look at the zoning code as it is.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
Is the board willing to possibly, being that smaller shed in the back has been there for many years, nature and character, maybe willing to keep that one and move the front shed?
I have no objection to that, Mr. Chairman.
I'm okay with that too.
No objection.
All right, so if your client will be able to move that front shed and keep that rear shed, everything else seems to be de minimis and okay for his application. That work?
I think my client would like to say something, but I'm not sure if he registered correctly.
He did.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if we can help him.
He needs to unmute himself.
Yeah, I see him and he just is muted. We can see you, sir. You're just muted.
Can you hear me now?
You can
Yes.
hear, yes, sir.
All right. This shed was put up behind the fence that our property has when we took on our 4 grandchildren and their mother. I felt it was the proper area because it was enclosed in our side backyard, and behind the pool would make it extremely difficult, and it's a safe issue with the children getting their bikes. There's actually 5 bikes in there and a bunch of their other toys per se, surfboards, etc. Since they have been with us, they're teenagers. I thought it was a safe issue. Again, they came to us 2 years ago. We're in our 80s, and This is why the addition is going on, and this is why the second shed appeared within the last 2 years. We've been residents there for 47 years.
I appreciate that, sir. And the issue that we have is that technically none of these sheds should be in the second front yard. And we have people come up in front of us multiple times a year and with the shed in the second front yard. And unless there's a reason that we could hang our hat on it, for lack of a better term, to approve it, it's hard for us to do that, because then we start setting precedent around neighborhoods. We have a zoning code to uphold. So being that your rear shed, as you heard, the one that's northerly on LaGrange Place on that second front yard, it's been there for so many years. We can claim nature and character. It's not going to change. It's nature and character of that neighborhood right there. It's been there a long time. That the code has changed much for this front shed. So I'm not sure how we approve that shed without having to approve everyone's shed.
To put it, where would you like us to put it?
Where on the property would that shed go?
We can't tell you that,
I
sir.
can't
That's,
tell you that, sir.
you know, we're not site plan consultants. We can only, quite frankly, act within the law. And
Right.
as the chairman says, the precedent here and is such that we, I don't think we've ever approved a shed under these in that type of location. Not since I've been on the board anyway.
I mean,
And
with
the
my
chair-
husband being 80 and me being 76, we have no idea how we could move it.
Well, you found out how to build it. So if you could figure out how to build it, I'm sure you could figure out how to move it. I'm sure you're smart people.
I apologize. Yeah, I appreciate your concern. I just, we have a job to do also, and we stated to your design professional that one shed would have to be moved to a complying location, but the rest of it seems to be de minimis and we should be okay with all that.
My question is, what would be a complying location in the backyard? To the northeast corner or midway across? Where?
Well, that would be something you'd have to contact the town and find out your second front yard setback, but I'm not a professional on it. I would believe your best location for that shed would be in the northeast corner. But I'm not a professional, so I don't know. You'd have to contact the building department, planning department, and find out what the setback is off of the that second front yard is. You're on a corner. That's
Right.
kind of hurts you a little bit in a way. So
Nobody's complained about it.
I understand that, man. We hear these all the time. I appreciate your concern and I appreciate your argument. We don't write the code. We just have to uphold it to the best of our ability.
Just in a we're just really caught between a rock and a hard place here. We have 4 grandchildren that we've taken in, and our daughter who's mentally ill. And we had to find a place to put their stuff. And, it's really, we've been living with the walls of Jericho falling down on us for 2 years. And, we're we just really don't know what to do.
What we could do is we can reserve decision and discuss it as a board and see if we can find anything in the area or try and figure something out, and then we can write a decision for you then. That's going to delay, obviously, your addition.
I really appreciate anything you can do. I mean, we've been in the house for 48 years. It is our backyard, and we're just trying to come up with something that'll, help the children. We don't know what else to do. I mean,
understood.
It bothers me that this is our property. It's our backyard. The fence is there, and the shed is in the backyard. And I don't understand.
Technically, and I appreciate that, but technically it's your second front yard. You live on a corner. That's the issue with living on a corner. You have two front yards technically. I know you think of it as your backyard. I would think of it as my backyard too, but zoning code says, the code in town of Islip, that's a second front yard. That's not a backyard. I know what you're saying and I appreciate what you're saying. It's just sometimes we don't have too much to go on with the code. So we have to make our decisions where they're at. But if you'd like us to reserve decision, Mr. Brody knows it takes 62, we're allowed 62 days by law. We can discuss it and see what we can come up with. There's no guarantees and it may just delay the inevitable. So you can do what you want. You can, your design professional can help you and advise you. But the best we could do is reserve it and talk about it as a board, but I can't guarantee a different outcome, honestly. I'm just being honest with you. I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. Mr. Brody, what would you like to do?
The reserved decision, will that hold up the entire application?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right. So Ed, that is an issue because we wanted to, be further along with this construction. But due to COVID and needing the variance, it would delay us an extra 2 months before we could do any permit applications and approvals.
Just want you to know he's on mute again. The applicant himself is on mute.
Honestly, Mr. Brody, as you know, we're a pretty reasonable board here and
I agree.
we try to do everything we can. This shed in the second front yard up that close is something that's
Yes.
very difficult to get past. And if they move the shed, everything else seems okay. And we can move forward.
I mean, I think that would be the direction to go, not to hold up us being able to submit applications for the addition. Because the number of people in the house is pretty overwhelming for what's going on. The dining room's been converted into a bedroom with the grandchildren and such. But
So you want us to vote tonight?
I would prefer that.
Yes? Okay.
Yes, but I want to make sure that they understand that.
Well,
So I
listen,
don't-
we only can do so much. We have a long calendar tonight.
I know you do.
Mr. Brody,
I
if we
appreciate.
spend 40 minutes on each case,
I
we'll never
agree.
get out of here.
I know.
Thank you.
I know. Yep. So,
Can you,
yeah,
are your clients unmuted or no?
They're still
Oh.
muted. I saw his mouth moving, but he's still
Yeah.
muted.
Sir, you're still muted.
Mr. Canopa, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, that should be unmuted.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, yes, sir.
yeah.
What's our next step?
Could you just explain that to him, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, Mr. Canopo, I appreciate, again, your argument and your situation that you're in. Unfortunately, I don't want to lead you down a bad path. That shed in the second front yard, the front one's going to have to be moved. So in order to, not hold you up for an extra 62 days and not, with possibly the same outcome, your design professional, I discussed with him that, we can vote it tonight and have you move that one shed and have the addition.
Well, we're going to move the shed. The question is, I need to find out where.
Well, that's Mr. Brody. Mr. Brody, you can
Not a-
speak to him.
Not a problem, Ed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to take a vote.
All right, does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we deny so much of the application to leave a 10 by 10 shed, which is situated immediately to the west of the residence, and grant the remainder of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Hey.
Thank you. We gotta move the shed. Yeah.
You're still on.
Yeah, we can move him out. That'd be
I
great.
did, yeah.
Thanks, man.
I do not see Mr. Messina on.
And I will read next one. Okay, application number 262-21, Mary Francisco Life Estate to renew permit for two-family, family use only, residence AA district, north side of Gates Avenue, 1,700 feet west of Fulton Avenue, Brentwood, New York. Is there anyone here for this application?
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Mary Francisco, 3 Gates Avenue, Brentwood, New York.
Great. How are you guys tonight?
So far, good.
All right. So we're here to renew permit, two-family, family use only. It's based on age. Everything's in order, Mary?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
everything is in order. Oh, the other Mary.
Mary Passaro.
Yeah, two Marys.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I will take a motion, please.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you in 3 years. Have a great night, ladies.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Application two.
I got it,
Oh,
Mr.
you
Chairman.
back?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I lost my internet, but I'm using my phone as a hotspot because nothing can keep me away from these meetings. The next application is number 263-21, Lydia Struhl Revocable Trust, Lydia Struhl trustee, to renew permit for two-family, family use only residence A district south side of Country Village Lane, number 164, 331.65 feet east of Grenadier Lane, East Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
I don't have anybody registered whose name seems to be connected with Struhl. I do have about 4 names that I don't recognize at all as having pre-registered for tonight's hearing. So if any of you 4 whose names I don't recognize are related to the Struhl application, you'll just have to raise your virtual hand at the bottom of the screen, the blue hand, and we will move you in. So until they do so, you might want to move on to the next case.
Second call.
All right, very well. Next application is number 264-21, Michael J. Hogan and Kerry L. Holland. Permission to leave pool patio having a rear yard of 4.1 feet and side yard of 4.6 feet. Instead of the required 6 feet each, residence B district north side of Clay Avenue, number 303, 100 feet west of Cadman Road, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes.
Hello. Hey, hello.
Good evening.
Hi, guys. How are you? Thanks for your time.
No problem. Just name and address for the record, please.
Dieter Specht, Spectacular Pools. My office address is 265 Brookfield Avenue, Centum Riches.
Great. How are you tonight?
Good, good. Thank you. How you guys doing?
Good, good. So it seems you have a few little corners here that are encroaching a bit on there. Seems de minimis. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Aye.
Next application is number 265-21, M2 Builders, Inc. Permission to leave a roofed over patio having a side yard of 13.5 feet instead of the required 14 feet and a rear yard of 20 feet instead of 25 feet. Residence B 278 Cluster District, east side of Greenbelt Parkway West, number 867, 1,461.02 feet south of Bradbury Court, Holbrook, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
I'm here, John Weiss,
Name and address for the record, sir.
JW Consulting, John Weiss, Post Office Box 674, Quorum, New York.
State your case.
As you can see, well, you can't see on the survey, Nichols Road is right behind us. And there's a green belt behind us as far as properties either owned by Suffolk County Water Authority, Suffolk County itself, or the town of Islip. It's not causing any type of a hardship. I think we're looking for a 6-inch variance. I don't remember the numbers because when I didn't get the program up before, I left everything in another room. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's 13.5 instead of 14 on a rooftop patio. It seems de minimis, and rear yard of 20 instead of 25. Deirdre, that backs up to
That backs up to Suffolk County Water Authority or town or Suffolk County.
all right. Deirdre, from planning, I'm assuming that there's no opposition from planning?
No objections. I think it's also only at one point that it's the 20 feet too, because the backyard kind of angles at this, where it's the water authority.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I just have a quick question for the applicant, just for my edification. Mr. Weiss, were you formerly employed by the town of Brookhaven?
Yes, I was.
Okay, Wexler will recuse on this application. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wexler recusing. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night, sir.
Good night. Have a good one.
You too. Our next application is number 266-21. Christopher and Janine Clementi, permission to install above-ground pool, leaving a side yard of 14 feet instead of the required 18 feet. Residence AA 278 Cluster District, west side of Old Post Drive, number 140, 741.54 feet south of Town Line Road, Hopog, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Mr. Clementi, you need to unmute yourself.
How's it going? I'm Chris Clementi. I'm 140 Old Post Drive. I'm the owner. Filing for a 14-foot setback on the side yard.
I got some bad stuff going on there. You better off muting yourself again.
What's that noise?
Oh, I don't know.
Sounds like some feedback.
Better?
You want to just mute yourself and when you talk, you can go back on? Just throw yourself on mute, Mr. Clementi. There you go. Thank you. So you install an above ground pool 14 instead of 18. Deirdre, present?
No precedent, but no objections. It's only at one side.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Who's Hopog? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, sir. Have a great night.
Next application is number 267-21, Paul Damasi, trustee of the Damasi Family 2015 Irrevocable Trust. Permission to leave a one-story addition, 12 feet by 43 feet, having a floor area ratio of 32.6% instead of the permitted 25%, and to leave a shed having a side yard of 1.02 feet instead of required 2 feet, an AC unit having a second front yard of 16 feet instead of the required 20 feet. Residence B District, northeast corner of Monroe Avenue, number 47, and McKinley Street, Brentwood, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
James Bay from Accurate Expedite.
Where am I?
Hey, Christine, how are you?
Right there.
Paul DeMacy, trustee, 47 Monroe Avenue, Brentwood, New York.
Great, sir. How are you tonight? I think we lost your design professional or your expediter. I think she got cut off.
I'm here.
Oh, you there? Okay, sorry. I lost you for a moment. You're frozen. Is it only me?
Yeah, no, it's not only you.
Okay.
She's having trouble with her.
I think she's having trouble with her internet, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's something going on tonight, I think.
Can
Not really. You're kind of, oh, you're moving now. I'm just gonna, how about I just, until you get back up, we'll see what Deirdre from planning has for that floor area ratio of 32.6% instead of 25.
So there's a grant more recently that was for 32%. It did state that there was unique circumstances. I'm not sure exactly what they were, but then there is a grant from 2008. It was granted somehow at 40.6%. I took off the sheds because we don't count them now, but that still brings it up to 38.8%.
All right, so what you're, I'm assuming that you're stating that you have no objection to the 32.6 being those other two, or?
No objections. I think they also supplied, a neighbor supplied something about the addition having been there for a very long time. So I think that this kind of is in the nature and character of the neighborhood.
Right, and the sheds de minimis and the AC units that come front yard of 16 instead of 20 de minimis also. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
I do. That 40%, what happened there?
I'm not too sure. I could find out specifically if anything happened. I think they were asking for something else. So maybe that kind of at the time took the board's attention because that was denied and everything else was left. And that's kind of, I believe that's what happened. And that's where it left it at the weird 40.6%. But I can find.
If I can just ask, Mr. Chairman, Deidre, so we have one that we don't understand, and we have one that was unique circumstances.
Correct. The
Other
only
than
one,
those two, what is the nature and character of the neighborhood?
there's another one that's at 30.9, but it's not close to the 32%. So it doesn't really
Maybe
hold
we
any weight.
should reserve and try to see what we can unearth about this application. It
Yeah.
may be grantable, but I want to make sure we have all the facts. I think it's a good idea.
On that 32 that was unique circumstances, did you pull the decision and the survey? Are you able to identify?
I don't have it with me right now, but again,
Okay.
something I can kind of give to the board and I can get it to you guys.
And the neighbor states, Deirdre, that it's been there for many years.
Yeah, I believe the neighbor, Constance Malinowski.
That's correct.
Am I wrong? But she stated that she's been going to the house, I think, since 1962. And stated that extension has always been there.
I mean, I'm fine with granting this tonight. I just am more curious about those two things you brought up than this application necessarily.
I'm fine with granting it too at 32.6. I think we have enough to write a decision on. But if Mr. Wexler would like to reserve, then we can reserve and discuss it.
If we want to do a reserve on this, I mean, I'm very curious to know what happened with those two.
I guess if I could just say one thing, I'm just trying to find out, since I don't know, if Ms. Ryan says that is the nature and character of the neighborhood, that's one thing. If it's not, that's another. I'm just trying to, or is that too broad of a question?
Oh, I appreciate what you're saying. I'm not sure Ms. Ryan knows if it's nature and character neighborhood at this point. So am I correct by saying that, Deirdre?
Yeah, I'm not too sure because I'm not sure if some houses kind of exist with a higher FAR and they just, they're just pre-existing.
Let me put it this way. Is there anybody familiar with that area who could tell us, yeah, this is Billy, or to the board, this is what the area looks like?
I can tell you if you want. I mean, like, I've lived there for 45 years.
Well, I first meant on the board. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a great argument. I like that.
All right, listen, if
Yeah, look,
nobody has an objection to it, then I don't have an objection.
Mr. Messina?
No, that's fine. If that's everybody's thinking, that's fine.
Mr. Sullivan? Same?
Yeah, same.
And what about you, Mr. Nicoli? I know you wanted to research some stuff, so.
No, I'm fine with, like I said, I'm fine with granting this tonight. However, separately, Deirdre, I'd like to know what happened there with the 40% in particular. But
I could send the decisions.
yeah, please send them to me. You can email them to me. But otherwise, I'm fine with this one. You just piqued my interest. I'm sorry, Mr. Demasi, but
no problem.
You got me sidetracked. That 40 is a little out of the ordinary. So,
Deirdre, what were the years of the two decisions?
The 40% was in 2008 and the 32% was in 2015.
was it one of my clients?
Okay. How about we see if there's any public to be heard?
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
There is somebody in attendance, but they did not want to be heard. I've moved them into the attendee panel and I've asked them if they want to speak and they have not started their video. So I imagine they don't.
Okay.
Does the board have any further questions?
No.
Mr. Nicolia, I will take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Granted, have a good night. Ms.
Thank
Fay,
you, everyone.
have a great night.
Appreciate it.
All right, next application number 268-21, Joseph M. and Maria A. Basulka. Permission to leave deck 2.5 feet high with partial roof over, having a second front yard of 11 feet instead of required 20 feet, Residence B District, northeast corner of 43rd Street, number 51, and 44th Street, Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
The applicant is here. See if we can get him started. Mr. Basulka, you might have to unmute yourself.
You do have to unmute yourself.
Yes, you do. So there's a little microphone at the lower left-hand corner.
We've got a fish tank in the background.
Ah,
That is for my cats. It's continual.
that's
Uh,
feeding. That's feeding for her cats.
Continual running water. And some cats like water that's moving. It makes them feel more comfortable to drink it.
I have one of those.
It's a
Spoiled
nice
cats,
sound,
man.
actually.
Spoiled cats.
They are very spoiled, and it might have caused our electric bill to double. So,
Should we hear from Ms. Ryan, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Basilka, we're trying to get you going. Maybe if you call the office.
Well, no, maybe you can just listen along too. Maybe we can speak with Deirdre real quick and while they're trying to figure that out, if there's any
Good idea.
precedent in this area.
There's
Right.
precedent in the area. I think they were granted in '89 actually to have a deck here with the same front yard, but it was at ground level. So I assume because it's to leave deck that over the years they might have, I guess, just raised it, but there's no precedent like this.
So they do have a grant for a deck, you're stating, at ground level, but this is 2.5 feet high.
Right. So I think that they must have raised it.
Yeah, a lot of people think 18 inches is good. So, you're off by a few inches, really,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking in my head too. So does planning have any objection to this, being that they had an approval at ground level and now it's 2.5?
Not necessarily. The only people that would be bothered by it would be the homeowners because it's up against a street. If it was up against a neighbor, I'd have more objection to it. But as
Agreed.
also from street view, there's, I think, a line of shrubs that's all along their fence. So you might not even be able to see if anyone's standing on the deck. So
Right.
no objections.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you could hear me now.
Oh, yes.
All right.
All right, our next application is number 269-21, Gilbert and Lori DeAndrea. Permission to erect a second-story addition 24.5 feet by 26.4 feet, leaving a side yard of 17.58 feet instead of required 18 feet, and floor area ratio of 29.2% instead of the required permitted 25%. Residence AA District, south side of True Harbor Way, number 26, 640.31 feet east of Oak Lane, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, we have the applicant and their representative.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is David Bush. I'm a registered architect. I am representing Gil and Lori DeAndrea on the application. My address is 90 West Main Street in Bay Shore.
How are you today, Mr. Bush?
Very good. Thank you, everyone, the chairman, members of the board, everybody for hearing us this evening. We appreciate it.
Great. So you're a little short on the side yard on an extension.
Yeah. So with us here tonight also is Gil DeAndrea. If there's any questions that the client on the application.
Sure. So I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said good evening. Sorry.
Good evening, Ms. DeAndrea. Just for the record, just your address, please.
26 True Harbor Way in West Islip, New York.
Thank you. So you 17.58 instead of 18 on the side yard, de minimis, in my opinion, and a floor area ratio of 29.2 instead of 25. We see up to 30% here, even though the code says 25. So we see these all day long. I do not believe there'll be an issue. I just want to see if anyone wishes to be heard. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
I am, just for the record, I'm available to walk anybody through any questions at a very high level, as you pointed out. We have a de minimis side yard setback request of 17.58. That's in alignment with an existing side yard setback. The existing side yard setback, so we're just coming up over that line. And the second floor addition is over the footprint of the existing garage. So there's no increased lot area coverage, things like that, or landscaping is maintained. Happy to address any other questions the board has.
Thank you, sir.
We don't have high-level questions, only low-level questions. So
We're simple people.
You're almost there.
That's it.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much. Have a great evening.
All right, our next application, number 270-21, Daniel J. and Denise Sims, permission to erect a one-story addition 20 feet by 25 feet irregular, leaving a side yard of 13.5 feet and leave one-story addition 5.4 feet by 25.5 feet, having a side yard of 17.1 feet instead of the required 18 feet each. Total side yards of 30.6 feet instead of the required 36 feet. And to leave a hot tub 7.5 feet by 9 feet, having a side yard of 12.4 feet instead of the required 18 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Nugent Avenue, number 1103, 300 feet south of Garden City Street, Bayshore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, James Apka from Todd O'Connell Architects, 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York, 11788.
Hey there, Mr. Zapka.
Very good. Good evening, board members, Mr. Chairman. We're here tonight proposing to construct a one-story screen porch to the southwest corner of the residence. We are seeking to reduce the minimum required setback to 13.5 feet where 18 is required, and to reduce the aggregate required side yard setback to 30.6 where 36 feet is required. As this is a rear yard addition set back from the front of the house, we feel this request is minimal in nature. And to note that this is a screen porch on 75% of the sides. There's only one solid wall which faces the street for privacy. Also, the roof line of this porch is going to be a flat roof. So we'll have approximately a maximum height of 12 feet, unlike your hip or gable roof which would be much more intrusive to any neighbors. From aerial view, it appears that the setbacks we're asking for are in line with some of the other neighboring properties and houses. We are also requesting to leave a jacuzzi having setback at 12.4 feet instead of the 18 feet. This has been in place on the site since approximately 2018. And when it was installed, the homeowner wasn't aware of the side yard setbacks of the 18 that was requirement at the time. As this is a non-permanent structure and not a visual disturbance to neighboring properties, we also believe that this request is minimal in nature. Now open any questions to the board.
Thank you, sir. Deirdre, any precedent for side yards?
No precedent. They originally had gone in 07 for a gazebo and a one-story, but I guess maybe it didn't work out because they were granted a 12-foot side yard, I believe, on the gazebo side, and then they had to conform and have an 18 on the side with the one-story addition. But this is still less than that relief, so no objections to this.
If I could just inquire, Mr. Chairman, it's a conforming neighborhood. Is this something we want to now set 13.5 as the standard?
I would normally agree with you, but they have a ZBA decision from 07 for a side yard relief for a gazebo.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it. Is it the same relief?
Well, it's
greater, right?
It's greater than this relief they're asking for, and it was for a gazebo. This is a screened porch.
Sorry, in the previous decision as well, it was noted that it would have to stay a gazebo. It couldn't be turned into more living space or anything like that. So
I'm just concerned. I understand the gazebos, we've seen enough of those, but are we taking a pretty big chunk out of an otherwise conforming neighborhood that we'll have to live with?
well, that's why I was saying that they previously kind of put that condition on that it had to stay a gazebo. It couldn't turn into like a bedroom or anything like that. So if you wanted to do the same thing here, they were granted at that time, I think a 12-foot side yard. So I'd be okay if they were granted now a 13.5, and again, it has to stay a gazebo, sunroom kind of thing. It can't.
So
But
this
they're
is,
two different, they're two
I'm
different
sorry.
animals. There's a gazebo and then there's a screened-in porch sunroom.
Gazebo
Oh,
then, stay a gazebo, sorry.
Although this is a more conforming application than the prior one, right? In on that side, the jacuzzi is a whole different story, but the porch is more conforming than what they could do now, right?
Correct.
I agree with Mr. Messina on that. I think this is more of a conforming application than the last. I do disagree, well, I'm not sure I disagree or not, but the hot tub on the other side, you know, I don't feel that the hot tub should have the same setback as a pool. You know how I feel about that. So I'm okay with the 12.4 instead of the 18, but that's something we can discuss as a board.
Just a positive question to the board. If an applicant comes next week and wants the same relief, but it's not a screened-in porch, it's an addition.
We would deny that. Well, I mean, I would feel that it, you know, again,
Okay.
absent some special circumstance, I would vote to deny.
Okay, I just want everybody.
Because I agree with you then. I agree with your analysis then. I think you're 100% on the mark at that point.
Okay,
I
thank
agree
you.
with you also. I agree with you. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
We're gonna put that proviso that it stays a,
With the correct, with the condition that it stays as a gazebo.
Screened-in porch.
A screened-in porch, I'm sorry.
Yep.
all right. You good with that, Ms. O'Connell? I mean, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, it's O'Connell.
That's okay.
You have a great night.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right, take
Next application number 271-21, Brian and Beth A. Toya. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a side and rear yard of 10 feet instead of the required 18 feet each. And pool equipment, leaving a side yard of 2 feet instead of the required 6 feet. Residence AA 278 Cluster District, north side of Shoot Lane, number 7, 730 feet west of Thunder Road, Holbrook. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is Brian Toya, 7 Shoot Lane, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Doing very well, thank you.
So,
Sir, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
sorry,
Chairman.
Mr. Rex. So, Ms. Messina, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sir, just what is pool equipment exactly?
The filter.
Okay. But something that makes noise then, right?
Minimal, well, based off of new technology these days.
You're asking for relief on both sides, sir. We normally, as a board, like to see one side be conforming and relief on another side. So it appears in your backyard, you have some room here to shift this pool over, possibly more to the west, to get that side yard relief to 18. And even a little bit south to get a little more on that rear yard also. What's behind you on the northerly property line?
It's 237 Thunder Road. It's another home, another residence. And I believe there's a precedent with them as well, having a variance for their pool, which you could see.
So I'll ask Deirdre from plan. Do you have the precedents, or you want me to ask the planning department? Mr. Toya, do you have the precedent or no?
I do not.
Okay, Deirdre from planning, is there a precedent for relief on rear and side yard of pools?
There's a precedent that was in 2011 for a side yard and rear yard of 14 feet. And then there's another precedent from 2013 with a side yard and rear yard of 10 feet, noting that this is in a cluster zone.
And that's within that same cluster zone that this property resides in?
I believe so.
I'm sorry, Deidre, what was the last precedent that was granted? 10 by 14?
A side yard and rear yard of 10 foot for each. But the one previous was a side yard and rear yard of 14.
Can I just ask a question? Could the applicant and the precedent have complied, or were there reasons why they couldn't? I mean, it looks like they have plenty of room here to the west to push the pool over and even come a little south, but let's start with one side. Do you know the circumstances of that prior?
Not right now. I could find out and I can let you know, but I'm not too sure.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Toya, could you comply? We have some precedent in the area, but as Mr. Wexler will say all the time, you know, a one-off is not something that we want to do on it. So you apparently have some room, according to your survey, to shift this pool over a little bit.
I'm
So
working on a nominal size of my lot, and I do have 3 children. So I want to try to save as much green space as I can. So that's part and parcel why when we had the pool company come in and design where he wanted to put where we're going to put the pool, it kind of made sense putting in that area. I mean, obviously we have to go off the rear of the fence. You know, we want to be at least 10 feet to try to save some space between us and our patio.
If you comply on, I mean, following our precedent, if you comply on the backyard on the north side, and then you moved it over just 8 feet, that's something that I believe the board would see through.
Yeah, but my next door neighbor, my neighbor in back of me had a prior precedent set for both. So I feel like that's unfair to only give.
Well, one precedent does not make a nature and character neighborhood. So that's where we are.
How did they get the approval?
That's where we are.
So how about we shift?
I feel like being that there's a prior precedent set and it's less than 10 years ago, I feel like
but that's not the law.
No, but I feel like I'm making a strong case that it should be approved.
That's not the law. We have to follow and uphold the law as we understand it.
Yeah. Sir, Mr. Toya, so would board members, I would say, what if we held the 10 on the rear and had them shifted over a little bit on the easterly side?
Want to say 10 and 14?
10 and 14.
I think that's reasonable.
That's reasonable. So shift it over 4 feet from to the west, keep the 10 on the rear, and then we have a deal, as we'd say.
Or you can make the pool 4 feet smaller.
I don't know if my kids would like that.
They would not like that. They would not like that. So 10 on the rear, 4 feet on the easterly side. Do you agree to that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I will take a motion.
So my motion is to deny that portion of the application which seeks permission to install an in-ground pool, leaving a side yard of 10 feet, and grant permission to install an in-ground pool, leaving a side yard of 14 feet, and then grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great night, sir. You enjoy the
Good to
pool.
see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application was adjourned from March 23rd, 2021. Number 178-21, Laura DeCiccio. DeCiccio, thank you, the Irishman.
The Chico.
The Irishman who's telling me how to pronounce the Italian name. Very good. Thank you. Permission to leave a roofed over porch having a front yard of 24.5 feet, roofed over entrance platform having a front yard of 19.7 feet, and one-story addition having front yard of 23.1 feet instead of the required 25 feet each. To leave a roofed over deck having a side yard of 13.7 feet, second story cantilever having a side yard of 12 feet, second story eave having side yard of 11.6 feet instead of the required 14 feet each. Total side yards of 25.3 feet instead of required 28 feet. To leave patios having side yard of 3 feet and trellis having a side yard of 0.5 feet instead of the required 4 feet each. To leave a driveway having a side yard of 0.4 feet instead of the required 4 feet. And front yard occupancy of 83.1% instead of the permitted 35%. And to use the dwelling for family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, Residence B District, east side of Rollstone Avenue, number 149, 866.03 feet north of Brook Street, West Sayville. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Amy DeVito with Woodhall Expediting.
Hey, Amy, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Can you just give us a little refresher? I know this had a lot of information on it last time we adjourned. Can you give us a little information while we adjourned again?
Sure. The main reason, Mr. Chairman, why we adjourned is because I was exploring with the reduction of the requested relief for the front yard coverage, if we would still be able to fit the required 4 car stalls to accommodate, which at that time, the request for the accessory apartment on the lot that was only 60 feet wide. Since then, the current homeowner is Sergio Uoa. He is in contract to sell the property to Laura DeSico. It was discovered in conversation that Laura's intention for the apartment upon her purchase would be for her father. So we abandoned the accessory apartment application and transitioned it to the 2-family family use on the grounds of advancing age. We submitted the contract of sale as well as the birth certificates for both Miss Laura DeSico and her father, Edward DeSico, to prove said relation and age. So that was the main reason why we adjourned. We did in the last hearing discuss the variances for the setbacks. I cannot recall if Deirdre expressed whether she supported the application or not, and if there was a precedent set. I actually have no recollection if we went that far. But that's where we left off.
The front yard occupancy relief, I believe we talked about decreasing it. Do you recall that? I don't recall.
Yes, that's correct. We discussed decreasing it to what the board standardly approves, which is to 40%.
40%. Okay, that's exactly it. And then 2-family family use only.
Correct.
For dad based on age.
That's correct.
All right, Deirdre from planning, any objection?
No objections. I think I found precedent for pretty much everything except the front yard occupancy, but with that going down, that no objections to 40. The trellis and the cantilever, I also didn't find precedent for. The cantilever, I believe, would be fine. The trellis, I'm a little concerned about because it says kitchen, and if it's 0.5 from the property line, that seems like it might be a problem, but everything else I found precedent for.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the trellis does have a outdoor kitchen underneath it. The kitchen itself, what we're calling a kitchen, is really just a stone base with a granite countertop. It does have one outlet, a cold water sink only, a small refrigerator, and the barbecue. The trellis itself actually has a wall along the north property line, so it would not disrupt the neighbors as far as any smoke going in their direction or anything like that. And quite frankly, they could just as easily put a barbecue on that part of the patio or the deck anyway. So it in my opinion, it wouldn't encroach any further nuisance than just having a standard barbecue over in that area.
I agree. Who doesn't like a good barbecue?
Exactly. You can pass a hot dog over the fence.
All right, Mary, everything's in order for the 2-family family use only?
You're muted, Ms. Passara. You're muted, Mary.
Everything's in order. We have Laura and her dad is coming to live in the house, correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
How are you?
There's one of my cats. This is why I don't take hearings at home usually, fellas.
Yes. All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application and also grant the application for a 2-family family use only pursuant to the town code for a period of 3 years.
Well, we're going to reduce the front yard occupancy to 40%, right? Not the 83.
And to reduce the front yard occupancy to 40%.
I'll second that fine motion.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's a good motion. It's a tough motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a
Thank
great night,
you.
Mr. Vito.
Good night. Good night,
All
everyone.
right. Next application number 272-21, Jeremy Cohen and Tiara Tomaso. Permission to erect a 1-story and 2nd-story additions with balcony leaving front yard of 24.4 feet instead of the required 40 feet, roofed over porch leaving front yard of 19.4 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 34 feet, side yards of 8.2 feet and 11.8 feet instead of required 14 each, all leaving a floor area ratio of 32.4% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet, Residence A District, north side of Roslyn Street, number 77, 418.79 feet west of Wantagh Avenue, Islip Terrace, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
You can.
Hi, Mary Desmond, Girl Friday, expediting 700 Lakeland Avenue, Bohemia, here for the applicant.
How are you, Ms. Desmond? I got to tell you, that
Good,
is
how are you guys?
one creative name for an expedite.
It's an old Spencer Tracy movie, isn't it? Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, right?
No, yeah, it came from a book, and then it was, is it that, I know like the saying, and I know it was a movie. I didn't see the movie, but.
Don't brag about how young you are, ma'am. It's not going to go well.
All right, state your case.
It's not winning any points, never mind. We're here for front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, total side yard, FAR, and the driveway being on the property line. Most of these setbacks are existing, with the exception of FAR. I had made a PowerPoint, which I was told, a short PowerPoint, which I was told I could share my screen, but after my conversation with Ms. Ryan, I don't know if it's necessary, since not only are these setbacks being maintained, there's also been precedent set. They're looking to do additions and renovations on an existing house, as well as construct a detached garage.
So what about the FAR then? We'll talk to Ms. Ryan in a second, but what about the FAR?
So the FAR, I believe you guys have aerials that you can look at. The detached garage isn't going to be invasive of any of the neighbors. It's at 32%. FAR, it brings it up to. You know, again, there's no structures around it that would interrupt the neighbors or disturb them in any way.
So I'm assuming by what you stated earlier that you have no precedent over for the FAR at 32.4%.
There's no precedent on the FAR.
You know that we, as a board, I'm sure you've listened to us many times because we're such an exciting board.
I have a couple times. Believe it or not, my weekend was spent. So
You don't sound happy about it either.
No,
I believe that you've heard us say 1,000 times over then if you've listened to us that, you know, the code says 25, we hold it to 30. Mr. Wexler loves 30%, doesn't like anything over. Is there?
If 32% is not something that the board is willing to consider, my client would be willing to go to 30%.
Wow.
And appreciate the relief.
See that?
Well done, madam. Well done.
Wow. How come nobody else says that?
Well, very few, anyway.
Deirdre, I'm assuming Ms. Desmond spoke to you and from her testimony, and you agree with the rest of her precedent-setting relief? Well, precedent for the relief, not precedent-setting.
Yes, there's precedent for everything else except the FAR, but it's the garage that's putting it over.
Sure.
It's a very large garage, but I'm okay with 30%.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I will take a motion, please.
Thank you. I'll make a motion denying so much the application, seeking 32.4%, but rather grant 30% and grant the remainder of the application. Very nice job, Ms. Desmond.
You didn't even see my PowerPoint.
I didn't need to see it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, our next application, number 273-2117 Deet Street Holding Corp. Permission to erect a two-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 75 feet instead of required 100 feet. Residence AA District, south side of Babylon Street, number 0. 363 feet west of Greenlawn Avenue, Islip Terrace, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? I saw Mr. Gleason pop on a second ago.
Sorry, before we can continue, I just want to make sure that everything was okay. I was being changed to a 10 days. So I just want to make sure I'm okay because was cutting in and out because I was being switched around.
Everything's okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm still
That's what matters. That's what matters the most.
delighted to be here.
I'm okay too, okay?
Perfect. All right. So please state your name and address for the record, Mr. Gleason.
My name is John Gleason, architect for the owner, Deet Street Holding Corp. I'm at 336 6th Avenue in St. James, New York. I'm here to represent the applicant. This is a proposed house on a vacant wooded lot on Babylon Street. I've submitted to the department a radius map, chain of title searches to determine area uses and lot widths in the neighborhood.
Looks like there's a bunch of 75s there, huh?
Yeah, there's 21 lots in the 500-foot radius. 10 of those lots have 75-foot widths. 3 lots are 70 feet and under. The remaining are 100 or above.
Okay.
So a little bit more than 50%, 60% are narrower lots than the zoning code allows for the zone that this lot is in.
Well done. And you're only here for the lot width. That's all you're here for. Everything else.
Correct. We conform with the setbacks. We designed the house to conform with front yards, side yards combined. Yes, correct, sir.
Great.
Yes.
Deirdre, any objection from planning?
No objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Yes, John, somebody has indicated they would like to be heard. I have moved her into the panelist frame. Her name is Anne Bruno.
Ms. Bruno, how are you tonight? If you can hear us, please state your name and address for the record.
She's just on mute.
If you can unmute yourself, that'd be great.
Got it. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board?
State what's going on. You have a, you like to be heard on this application?
Yes. I'm the neighbor directly next door, the property owner next door to the west of it.
Sure.
And, the reason that we bought our house originally is because of the nice sized lots, the large pieces of property, and that we had the wooded area next door that was not a buildable lot. And going forward now, we're here 39 years, and there's been a lot of changes, and unfortunately not such good ones. And the congestion in this area is getting to be too much. It's like single family homes have illegal rentals all over. We have limited space on the street, and we have one of the wider streets. Emergency vehicles can't even come down. They have an issue. They're trying to navigate down our street. I mean, this is really changing our neighborhood, and this is not, what we had purchased and what we wanted going forward. And this is not, we're not on board with this.
Ms. Gleason, did you say your house is directly to the west of this subject property?
Ms. Bruno, my name is.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bruno, I apologize.
Yes.
Ms. Bruno, you're directly to the west? You have the same size lot as the subject lot that they're here in front of us for. You have a
Well, I understand that. I'm aware of that. But what I'm saying to you about all the other houses, the single family homes on this block, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here that, people are, there's absentee landlords that have illegal tenants here. I mean, it's getting to be too much. It's over. Congestion is unbelievable now.
I appreciate your concern. Unfortunately, the applicant is in front of us just to seek permission of a 75-foot lot instead of the required 100. And they have presented in front of us a radius map that shows multiple lot size at 75, some less than 75 in a 500-foot radius. You're being one of them. So I appreciate your concern on that, but we're just here to hear the lot width. Everything else the applicant complies with.
You'd be right on top of this.
So they're saying
We
like
oppose it.
we're opposing it. That's what I'm saying. It's
That's
just
okay.
like,
That you're
that will
allowed
not be
to.
granted.
You're allowed to oppose it, and I appreciate that. I'm just letting you know. I'm just giving you the facts from where we have to see it from as a zoning board.
Yes.
What's in front of us. So that's all I was saying. You can oppose whatever you'd like. That's your right. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you
Alrighty.
for hearing me.
No problem. You have a great evening.
You too, thanks.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you, board members. Enjoy. Thank you.
All right, our next application number 274-21, Dominic and Roxanne Esposito. Permission to elevate and expand dwelling, leaving a side yard of 12.8 feet instead of required 14 feet. Total side yards of 27.9 feet instead of the required 28 feet to erect a porch, leaving a front yard of 38.3 feet instead of required 40 feet. Side yard of 12.8 feet instead of required 14 feet. Entry platform with stairs, having a front yard of 25.1 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 34 feet. All having a floor area ratio of 31% instead of permitted 25%, and first floor elevation of 14.9 feet instead of permitted 9 feet. To leave retaining walls and patio on side property lines, not having required setback of 4 feet each, and shed with outdoor shower, having a side yard of 1.9 feet instead of the required 2 feet. Residence A District, north side of Corbin Place, number 507, 150 feet west of Secretary Lane, West Islip, Secretary Lane West, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Who are you, sir?
My name is Chris Alvino. I work for Harold Gebhardt Architect, 363 North Wellwood Avenue, Lindenhurst.
How are you tonight, Mr. Salvino?
Very good. How are you guys?
Good. State your case.
Okay, we are looking to add some living space. This is a split level house. The property is very clean. They keep it in immaculate condition. The house is very beautiful, but they're starving for some space. So we're looking to add some space, and we're staying pretty much in the confines of the house. We're only going to the west a little bit, a couple extra feet to the west. Otherwise, we're kind of staying kind of on top of where the house is now. Basically going up on the right-hand side for a master suite, and we're going towards the back on the northwestern corner with the kitchen. Make the kitchen bigger, so we have the living room, then the dining room, then the kitchen towards the rear. The master suite's up all the way at the top, and then the kids are below them and the bedrooms are below them. That's not changing in that area.
So you have a 12.8 instead of 14 on a side yard. Seems a bit de minimis at that point. You have a porch, leaving a front yard of 38.3 instead of 40, de minimis. Side yard of 12.8 instead of 14 again. Entry platform and stairs, 25.1 instead of 34.
Correct. We're not getting any closer to the east side. We're only getting closer in the front because we're putting on the porch and the stairway down, but we're still leaving quite a bit to the platform. I think it's almost 25, 26 feet. And we have a very large rear yard, and we're only going a couple of feet extra to the
What
west.
is the existing FAR, sir? What is the existing FAR?
The existing FAR.
I asked first.
The FAR, I'm not sure what the existing is.
Well, it's a number, so maybe somebody could get it to us.
Yeah, let me see here. Floor area ratio. Do I have I have the new FAR, right? Oh,
No,
31.
that we know. All right. Have you been listening to any of our prior hearings tonight?
Yes.
Have you heard my affinity for 30%? That was my
Yes.
average score on tests in school, so I just know that. What saith you, or unless the area maintains greater than 30%? Do we know that?
Ms. Ryan?
There is a 32.2 and a 31.8.
And what about the front entry platform?
Actually is a case in 2005 for entry stairs with a front yard of 19 feet.
Okay.
The only thing that I wasn't able to find were the retaining walls, but I think those are more so necessary.
Right.
Depending on the site work being done, and the height of the first floor being 14.9 instead of 9 feet.
Yeah, that's because it's a split level, and we're leaving that first floor right where it is. It's there now. We're leaving it there.
How much of the building is going up to the 14 feet compared to what's there now?
About half the building, a little more than half the building.
Okay.
So Deirdre, do you have, does planning have any objection for the 14.9 instead of permitted 9?
No, stated that
That's-
the reason why
that's what-
we're given the 14 is because it's a split. I just want that to kind of be somewhere in maybe the decision, just so people aren't then building up to 14.9.
Yeah, yep, that would be great. And we have a garage under that too.
And just so I know I'm sorry, Deidre, the rationale for granting it 14.9, and you want something in decision, so it's not precedent setting. What was the language that I didn't catch what you said?
Well,
Because it's a split level.
Wait. You are not Deidre Ryan.
I'm sorry.
Lucky for you, unlucky for her. Deidre, what language did you want us to include in the decision?
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure what can specifically be included, because then people could just build splits that would allow their first floor to be at 14.9.
So what are we trying to prevent?
I don't want everyone raising their house to 14.9. I understand this is a split, but I don't know how other people can't come in and do their own splits with 14.9.
Right, well, maybe we should reserve and allow our counsel at our next executive so we can write an intelligent decision. I know he can, so we don't create everybody building at 14.9.
I agree with you, Mr. Wexler, on that too. But I have a concern with this 14.9 instead of the 9. And I would like to definitely write this properly and look into it a little bit.
Yeah, the reason why, and just so you know, if I may, the 14.9 is existing height. When you walk into the house now, you climb up to that 14.9.
No, we know that. We just need to make sure we adequately explain that in our decision.
Should we choose to grant that after listening to whoever wants to be heard?
Okay.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
I think, Mr. Chairman, there's one member of the public, I think, Ms. Olson.
Olson, how are you?
Hi,
Name and address to the record, please.
Lila Olson, 509 Corbin Place. I'm a neighbor to the Espositos on the right side.
Great. How are you tonight?
Good. My husband is away this week, so I'm on my own here. But we both are concerned regarding the retaining walls along the side yard property line. I didn't realize that there was a setback of 4 feet required when he first put it in. And what we're really concerned about is flooding, because his soil level is about a foot, maybe 12 to 14 feet above ours. We love the neighbors, they're wonderful people, but I am concerned about flooding. So when I got the notice, I felt like I had to share my concern.
I believe, that they would need those retaining walls with elevating the home.
Also, I think, Mr. Chairman, I believe there's engineering review on this, and engineering is going to require an appropriate drainage plan.
Correct. And we're not raising the grade at all.
We may not be raising it, but that might be an existing flooding condition that your neighbor's concerned about it being exacerbated. So, that would have to be worked out with engineers who understand these things, the math on it, so to speak, better than we do.
Did you understand that, Ms. Elson?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, it's going to go through it's going to have to go through a whole process for the engineering department with regard to the retaining walls and the grade and the drainage and all that jazz.
Okay. I just want to be safe, that's all.
Oh, understood.
And we want you to
appreciate
be safe.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. All right. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application?
We do have John Davis here from the Willis Point Civic Association.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis, how are you? You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Who's got the noisy background? Could they mute themselves, please, so we can hear?
And Mr. Davis, you have to unmute.
There we go. Did I get it?
You got
Yes.
it, Mr. Davis.
How are you, sir?
Couldn't find that unmute button. It was a little stubborn on me. I'm not sure why video's not up. I think we're up on that, but regardless, I just have a couple of questions. The side yard, certainly no issues for Willets Point. The FAR, I believe on that particular street, there was already a higher number. And I believe it was already cited at 32.2 at the 503 Corbin Place. So that wouldn't be an issue. The retaining walls that were just mentioned, I think Mrs. Olson was really only concerned about water runoff. She didn't want it sloping down onto her property, but as you say, engineering is going to review that anyway. The larger question I have is on the elevation, the lowest floor elevation of 10 what's the request?
14.
14, okay, 14.9 instead of the permitted 9. We had a case on this November of 2019. It was actually, it went on for about 6 months because the application was revised. The owner was hinted that he should reduce that amount, and they did. They brought it back down to 10.5. This was, the ZBA number was 50919 at number 4 Secatog Lane East. That house was a split, and they were trying to accommodate a handicap elevator, and the final decision after review gave them permission to leave an elevation of 10.5 feet instead of the permitted 9. And the board was pretty strongly opposed to going higher than that number. Now, I'm a little confused on this application because here we're taking a house that is a 2-level typical high ranch and basically making it into a split. It looks like it's got 4 levels, including the lowest level. It looks like the floor area that we're elevating to, and what's on the call here is at the proposed front door level. And if that's correct, that's actually about 6 feet higher than the existing upper floor level. The existing upper floor level is where the existing bedrooms are, and it's probably 6 feet
I'm sorry,
roughly.
Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, you're losing me. In a sentence, can you tell us what your concern is? It's too high, it's too low, it's too big, it's too small? What's your
Well, I think it's much higher than needed. I don't know why the entrance is all the way up onto this new floor level that's being constructed, and why it's not, for example, down at the existing main level.
Mr. Davis, we've been told that the existing height of the structure is 14.9, and that's where that number comes from.
But I don't believe that's actually the case.
Okay.
I'm not, I can't say for sure.
Sure.
But the door that's shown on the sketch here is up on the new living room, dining room, kitchen level, which is.
All right, well, why don't let's ask the applicant's architect.
So we're concerned about the height of that front entrance. That's the issue.
Got it.
Okay, hi.
Applicant's architect.
Yeah, the existing level of all that space now, that living area now, is at that 14. That is the
But
existing.
the question is the door higher right now?
The door, when you walk in now, the door is lower.
Listen to my, hang on. Listen to my question. Is the door being raised up from where it is now?
The door is being raised up from where, right now, the door is in the middle of the floors. We're raising it to the floor. We're raising it to meet the existing finished floor height of 14.
Okay, so raising the door doesn't affect raising the height of the building, is what you're saying?
No. Essentially,
Okay.
we're not raising anything. We're only adding the addition to on the top to the right.
Okay.
We're not adding anything else. We're just
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you understand that, Mr. Davis? You're on mute again, bud. Sorry.
I just want you to also understand, if I may, that this has been, when we were designing this and putting this project together, we didn't want to tear down the whole house. We're trying to do this as economically as possible. Most of the house is staying. We're just adding to the back and adding a front porch. We're raising the door up to meet the existing finished floor, and we're adding a master suite to the right.
Sir, I think the critical thing for you is that you're not making the house higher than it is or adding height in any portion of it. Is that correct?
Gotcha. That's correct.
Okay. So then stop there. Stop there while you're ahead.
Why don't you just stop right there?
Okay.
But I have to object to the answer because the proposed front entrance is not at an existing floor level. There is no existing floor level there.
Well,
The highest existing floor level is where the existing bedrooms are. It looks like.
Okay, Mr.
you know,
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I have a really good idea. Why don't we reserve decision and we can examine the plans in depth and make a determination?
Well, I think that's what we were gonna do anyway, Mr. Wexler. Mr. Davis was just looking to be heard on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mr. Davis, I have a question. Is Tony Nicolia still the head of the Willets Point Association? Or the president or the chairman or whatever?
Honestly, I don't know that name. Maybe it's a different association you're thinking
Yeah,
of.
maybe it's the next one over on Davison. All right.
That I think you mean Magoon Landing, perhaps.
That's the one. All right. That you guys are, yeah, all the same.
It's a neighboring association, but they're on the other side of Willis Creek.
Okay. All right. Good.
And
Thank you.
just one thing for clarity, we're only raising the entrance. It's a pad. You walk in, it's 6 foot wide by 4 foot deep. We're raising that up to meet the existing floor level.
Don't you think we get that by now, Mr. Alvino? Do you think we're that stupid?
I'm sorry.
Just me, Mr. Wexler, not you, just me.
These Zoom meetings are new to me, so I don't, you don't
No
have
worries,
that same
sir.
dynamic.
All right.
All right, does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Mr. Davis, would you like to say anything further?
I think, we've made the point. I just disagree that door is coming in at an existing level, and it says right on the plan in front of us that it's a new level.
Well, yeah, he's not saying it's coming in at the existing level, and the code doesn't really cover the height of the entranceway. But we're going to look at your objections, and we're going to look at the plans. And
fair enough. I mean, otherwise, that was the only issue we have. The plan looks very nice, and we're happy to see them making these improvements. We have no objection to it. It's simply that elevation, since it was made such a big deal of on that previous application on Secretary Lane East. So
we will have our crack staff look at it to advise us.
Thank you, Mr. Wexler.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you, Mr.
Anyone
Davis.
else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions?
I'm sorry, before we continue, there is the Esposito family on, I don't know.
Yes, we're here, Roxanne and Dominic Esposito. We're listening.
Who's listening? Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
Nope. I think your design professional has answered all of them. If you would like to say anything, you're more than welcome. But I believe you're just here to.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I mean, if you do look at those aerial footages, most every house in this area, a lot of them are the same style, and I'm sure they all went out in the front, they all went out in the back, they all went up, everyone.
We're going to be looking at that.
We're going to be looking at all that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I understand that, but I'm doing what I'm with is less than most of the people over here.
Sure. Appreciate your time. Thank you for your comments.
Thank
you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
As you all know, we have 62 days by law. We're going to do the best to get it to you as soon as possible. Have a good night.
All right, our next application, Mr. Chairman, is number 275-21, Red Wolf 12 LLC. Permission to subdivide lot into 2 parcels. Lot 1 to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 60 feet instead of required 75 feet. And lot 2 to erect a 2-story dwelling having a lot width of 60 feet instead of required 75 feet. Residence B District, north side of Kirk Avenue, number 64, 653.05 feet east of Woodlawn Avenue, Ronkonkoma. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Hi, Anthony Savino, 64 Kirk Avenue, Ronkonkoma.
How are you tonight?
Great, how are you guys?
Great, state your case.
Okay, so I'm looking to split the lot again. It was split at one point and looking to split it again, 60 by 147 and 60 by 142. Build 2 homes, stay within your front, rear, side setbacks, but build homes going from 75 width to 60 width. That's it.
I'm sure you've heard our board, Mr. Wexler, predominantly state to other applicants tonight regarding how many in a 500-foot radius are 65 feet or less.
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. It seems that there's 9 in the 500 square foot. There's 2 on the block One is 2 houses down from me, and one is, I think, 4 houses down from me that are on 60 by, I think, 100. So, and there's 9 within the 500 square foot.
All right.
You guys also approved me to build on 50 by 100 about a year ago on Richmond, about 2 minutes away. It's beyond 500, but just putting that out there. And the house that's on there now is demolished, so the land is completely clear.
You gave us, there are, I think you said 9 60s. Yes.
960 by 60 or under by 100 within the 500 square foot.
Okay. And how many homes do you know are within the 500 square foot, either wholly within or a portion of it, if you know that, the distinction?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
How many homes are there? You say there are 9.
There's 9 within the 500
Are
square
there
feet.
1,000 homes in the 500, or are there 30 homes? So we need.
Oh, how many homes are in the 500? I think I counted around 35.
Okay.
So a third, roughly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So a
Thank
third
you.
of them, right? Nine of them I counted.
Okay. Thank you.
Deidre from planning, any objection? If not,
There's no grants for 60-foot lots.
Oh.
That's kind of the problem. The 2 that are to the north here, although for some reason they're still separated, at one point they were trying to build a 60-foot lot, but they were denied. There were a few other 60-foot lots that came before the board, and they were all denied. There's one 60-foot that's down the road, but I think I saw that there was a house there probably predating any code or anything like that. So I believe that that's probably how.
So you take issue that there are not 9 60-footers.
Yes.
Oh, no. Are you saying that there's not 9, or that there's not 9 that were granted by this board?
There's not 9. I don't believe that there's 9 that were granted by the board. I don't believe that there's 9 in general that are under the same circumstances. They could have been predating. They could have had specific things. I think one parcel that kind of did get some sort of a grant, it was single and separate ownership. So there was different conditions on those sites. But as far as I can tell, especially just up and down this road, a lot of the lots are actually oversized. So splitting this one.
So I guess my question, I mean, those are legal concepts of how they were created, or they're,
Right.
It's almost like a legal fiction. The fact is that they are there, right? How many of those 9 that he claims, if you know, are A, improved, and B, with the same depth?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure which ones he's talking about, because I was only
to
looking.
me, that's more relevant than how they were created by grant or by not. I mean, the character and nature of the neighborhood is the character and nature of the neighborhood.
Can I make a
especially if it's legally existing.
Can I make a suggestion following up on Mr. Nicolia's prescient point? If I may, Mr. Chairman, why don't we have Mr. Savino submit to the board so we can review each and every home that you
I have
claim.
it actually. I mean,
Well, did I sound like I finished? Why don't you submit to the board, if you have, I haven't seen it yet, each and every home that you claim, regardless how it got there, is on 60 or less within the 500-foot radius.
And
Could you
please
do that?
indicate the depth as well, as in addition to whether it's improved or not, the lot.
Yeah, if he can identify the parcel, we have the records for the deck.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, right, so.
So why don't you just simply send us the list, and this way we'll know.
How do I do it? I have the a PDF right here.
You don't send it now, you email it to the office in the morning, okay? Or you can email it now too. But we don't get it during the course of the hearing. We're gonna have to do some research and take a look at this, quite frankly.
Understood.
Yeah.
It's also a pass-through lot. I don't know if you see the back.
Yep, it's a through lot, yeah.
So,
I think we have members of the public, Mr. Chairman, who want to be heard.
Sure. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Yes, hello.
Oh, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Booth, 5 Kirk Avenue, Ronkonkoma.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'm here tonight to oppose the subdivision. It will change the look and feel of our street significantly. The majority of homes on Kirk Avenue are 0.3 of an acre and up with large like frontage, very wide, on the street. 4 of the lots are 0.4 to 0.46. And I believe the proposal is going to bring that lot down to 2 lots that are about 0.2 of an acre each. So it's significantly smaller and they're going to be closer together with, it's going to look very different on the street. I did speak to about a bunch of neighbors in person and some virtually. We have about 100 signatures, neighbors that are in opposition to the subdivision. We're concerned about a precedent being set. In this case, this house did have a fire. And, we don't want lots like this that are 0.4, that are the character of our neighborhood to be, cut in half in the future and developed on. There's also burden with cesspool, runoff. It's 3 properties up from the entrance to the lake. And I think that's it. More congestion.
Okay,
I appreciate you hearing me. Thank you.
thank you for your time. We'll take it into consideration. Anyone else wish to be heard in this application?
I think that there's a Dorothy Lesnick that's raised her virtual hand, Mr. Chairman. If Ms. Lesnick, if you can unmute yourself, if you're still here.
Hello?
There you go.
Hello, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Dorothy Lesnick, and my husband and I own the property at 49 Kirk Avenue in Ronkonkoma. I did email to Deirdre Ryan because I wasn't sure whether I would be able to meet this meeting tonight. I'm a senior citizen. I've owned that property with my husband for 54 years. The area is very peaceful and it's turned out to be full of a lot of new improved houses and housing. I think I'm grossly opposed to having that lot subdivided. It will in fact change the entire look and character of the neighborhood. And also appearances are very important. There seems to be an influx of young families coming into the neighborhood. Ronkonkoma has always been extremely dear to me. I would like other people to feel it is just as nice a place to live in. If those 2 houses are built on that house, it will in fact change the whole appearance and really dissuade people from wanting to buy in a locality that might change according to zonings. I think the property is just a nice one-family house could be built on that property. I don't see a need for having 2 families. Congestion, runoff, just as as Ms. Booth said. One of my neighbors has also gone around down our block getting signatures and petitions for this. I don't know if you've received them in your zoning plan. But I know that there were almost 100 signatures against having the zoning changed.
I believe we have received them in the office for the file.
Okay.
Appreciate
And I'm sure that my email went to it too.
I'm sure it did. We are obviously virtual at this moment, but I believe that our wonderful staff has everything that was sent in on your behalf for the file.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the next person who's in to speak, Karen Ranieri.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Name and address for the record, please.
It's 61 Kirk Avenue. We live just about across the street from the lot that you're talking about.
Great. How are you tonight?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, great, thanks.
All right, we're very opposed to it because it's a small lot. I can't imagine 2 houses on it. There was one tiny house on it. I'm wondering, are they for sale for families or are they going to be rentals?
Well, we wouldn't know that. That's not in front of us. He's just in front of us to see if he can get some approval on splitting it into a smaller lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had.
Okay, we understand. But it's a beautiful block and we're right off of Roseville. There's so much congestion. Now you're just bringing more. A 1-family home would be so lovely there. And there's, 2 2-story homes. They don't even fit the neighborhood. But thank you for listening to me.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman, the
Thank
next person, I'm sorry, Ms. Ranieri, I apologize. Next person, Kathy Sexton. please unmute yourself and
Yes,
There
hi,
you
how
go.
are you?
Good evening, Ms. Sexton. Name and address for the record, please.
44 Kirk Avenue.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. Some of it might be a little repetitive, but I'll be quick. I wanted to emphasize that the majority of homes, again, like they said on this street, has a wide frontage. And that was since the beginning, but and having this lot split in half again would change the whole dynamics of the block. I represent a lot of neighbors too when I say that it would be like, it would just not be in line with the aesthetics of how everybody's trying to keep their property nice. It's been, it would have a congested look, things right on top of each other. And basically, it's not something that we believe our road needs. I know a lot of neighbors have expressed their opinion on the past of this particular lot, having rentals and having the house burned down. And many people were concerned about what would come in next. So we were all hoping, again, for like a single family home would be very nice over there. We love paying our taxes here and we enjoy the space on the side of our homes. It's one of the reasons why we love this block so much. So
Understood.
basically, that's all I want to say.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next speaker is Christy Moore. Ms. Moore, if you could unmute yourself and be heard.
Mr. Wax is going out that water bottle. Look at
I need to stay hydrated.
that. I wanted to
Indeed.
say chug, chug, chug.
Ms. Moore, again, if you could, there you go.
I actually didn't sign up to talk. I just wanted to listen to see what's going to happen with the property.
Okay, we just didn't want to deprive you of your opportunity.
Oh, thank you very much.
Our pleasure. That's what we're here for. I think that's all of speakers who have been moved into the panel, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll reserve decision, sir. We have 62 days by law to render a decision. You'll be hearing from us shortly.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, our last application, number 495.
You're not showing up, sir.
I know, I was just going to call it so we could do whatever we were going to do.
Gotcha. I apologize. I didn't mean
No
to-
worries. 495-20, James J. Verdone, permission to leave 6-foot fence having a front yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet, shed not having 20 feet behind front line of the dwelling. Residence A District, northeast corner of Lowell Road, number 99 and McNeil Street, Sayville, New York. Mr. Chairman, I note for the record, this is the third time that that this has been scheduled before the board, and there has been 2 prior non-appearances by the applicant, although he did call tonight to say he wasn't going to be able to appear.
Mr. Chairman, what type of award does the board grant for 3-time cancellation? I don't remember. Does anybody remember 3 times?
You get a certificate of merit, Mr. Wexler.
But this definitely should be an award for letting us go home early.
That's it. All right. So what are we going to do with this one?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we dismiss the application.
Hold on, wait. Question for Will Garbarino. Is he in court on this? Is there an open violation that he has a ticket on?
You have the file, Mr. Nicole. I think.
I would have to check. I don't have access to the records right now, but I'd have to check for you, Mr. Nicolia.
Okay, well, it's not relevant if we're going to dismiss it, but I've seen this as a strategy before.
I did some research on this, Chris, to encourage Mr. Verdone to pick a hearing date and come back just recently, and he did respond really quickly. I did advise him, because he has an open pool permit for some time now, that his pool permit is way past expired, and if he didn't reply to us and pick a suitable hearing date, I would have no choice but to forward it to code enforcement. So I'm pretty sure that I checked and there was no violation. It's just that he hasn't been able to close out his pool permit.
But he didn't pick a date, right?
He did pick this date.
Oh, what date did he pick?
This one.
Tonight.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
okay.
can I just make a point out something? What do we do when, as we've kind of discussed, Mr. Nicolia has brought up and Mr. Messina, when it's to somebody's benefit not to advance the case for the obvious reasons, so they continually stall? I know in the appellate division, if you don't appear, you don't have to. They decide the case on the merits without you.
Thank goodness we're not appellate division
Yeah,
judges.
we're not, but I think
Mr.
that,
Chairman, if I may, I think Mr. Wexler, if we dismiss this, there is no stay on enforcement. And I think Ms.
That's what I was
Pissaro's
getting with.
solution to send it to code enforcement would be a penalty if it, as it were, to the applicant.
That's better than the appellate division.
I agree with what both of you said. I
Yeah,
think.
okay,
So then I'll move to dismiss.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn the hearing if there's.
One more quick second, Mr. Messina, before you adjourn. We do have a second call
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
here. I don't think they're here, but maybe we should call. I think it's application 265-21, I believe.
Yeah, it is M2 Builders, Inc. Permission to leave roofed over patio having a side yard of 13.5 feet instead of required 14 feet and rear yard of 20 feet instead of required 25 feet. Residence B 278 cluster, east side of Greenbelt Parkway, 1,461.02 feet south of Bradbury Court, Holbrook. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
No, because we heard them and we granted it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was 263 we're looking at.
I apologize.
260, my bad.
No worries.
The
Miss-
one that, we were close, you were close, but no,
Lyd-
sorry. The one
Lydia
that
Str-
was a second call was one of our family use only renewals. And again, I've been very happily surprised at how many of the family use only renewals have been able to zoom in. So
I'm sorry about that.
Well, I mean, Ms.
couldn't fault
Pissarro, Mr. Chairman, I think it's the board's call. We can find out if everything's in order, and then if the board wants to vote it, I think we can. If we don't, we don't.
everything absolutely is in order, or else we
think you
wouldn't
voted.
have deemed the application complete if it were not in order.
I was hoping by this time we would have this as the regular renewal for
I know, we're working on that, right, Will? We're gonna do that code amendment.
working on it. We've been doing this for.
I think
All right,
since
so
I've been on the
I think
board,
Jessica needs it from us pretty soon in order to get it on for the next round of code amendments. So
I'll make a motion to grant this application.
Second.
All in favor?
for a
Aye.
period of,
Wait, did we?
3
did we-
years,
Did we
a
call it the right
period
way?
of 3
Is this
years.
M3 for a period? Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
called and granted.
That being the conclusion of our business, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to adjourn.
I
Second.
would second.